Greetings on the BSF Raising Day. Today is the 1st of December, and we are celebrating the Foundation Day of the Border Security Force, the world's largest bodyguarding force, 270,000 women and men, 24 aircraft, 100 water vessels, horses, camels, canine squads, artillery, powers under the Passport Act, powers under the Criminal Procedure Code, and much more. But today we're going to talk about the history of the Border Security Force and why it's so important for us to understand this. My personal reasons for talking to you about the BSF are the following. One, both my father, S.K. Chopra, and my father-in-law, S.N. Misra, were members of this force. In fact, my father was a founding member of this force. I grew up in the BSF campus at Jalandhar camp. My wife also grew up in that campus. And more importantly, I studied in the BSF school at Jalandhar. This story has been brought to you based on my anecdotal recall, but also on the memoirs written by L.P. Singh, the then Home Secretary, the writings of the then Chief of Army Staff, General J.N. Chaudhary, and the memoirs of K.F. Rustomji, the first Director General of BSF, who wrote a book called The British, the Bandits, and Bordermen. Now, let's go back to the early 60s. The early 60s were a rather turbulent time for India. We had just faced, the morale was a bit low because of these skirmishes. And of course, we had the skirmishes with the Chinese that let us, affected in the Northeastern Frontier Agency area, which is now called Arunachal Pradesh, Punjab, Assam, and Madras. They were facing linguistic and ethnic issues. Jammu and Kashmir was on the boil, and the ravines of Chambal were full of dacoits. And the typical response of all state governments was, let's expand the Home Minister of the country after the death of G.B. Pant. And when he used to have meetings of the zonal council, which had been set up under the 1956 States Reorganisation Act, he tried to convince the state government that why don't you set up a reserve force for each zone, so that if there's an issue in Rajasthan, perhaps Gujarat Police could help, perhaps Punjab Police could help. But the state governments were not very keen to establish this force, whereas Shastri was very keen that both as a measure of economy and also to optimize resources, this should happen. But it did not happen. L.P. Singh, in fact, says that had he stayed longer as Home Minister, perhaps it might have seen the light of the day. But what happened was that in early 1965, Pakistan launched the Operation Desert Storm, and they started attacking our border post in Gujarat border at a place called Kanjarkot. And the Gujarat police had to then requisition the CRPF. And then finally, because it was a regular attack by the Pakistan army, the Indian army was rushed in. We had to rush in our army from Ahmedabad, which was much longer. The distance that they had to cover was much longer than the distance which the Pakistan army had to cover. But it was very clear that, it's a regular attack of the Pakistan army, and we need to consolidate and integrate our defense of the Indian border. So this skirmishes started. First thing happened in December, then in January. And when India protested, Pakistan said this whole area has been with them since 1947. So it was a bit of a stalemate. But that was a time when Prime Minister Shastri asked the Vice Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Kumaramangalam, to look at the entire way in which the border guarding forces have to be strengthened, because there was the Gujarat Police, there was the Punjab Police, there was the Rajasthan Police, there was the Jammu and Kashmir Police. So there were 4 different police forces in the north. Then there was Assam and Bengal. So we had a common border, and it was a bit difficult for the Home Ministry to coordinate the operations of these different state police forces. So Kumaramangalam established, there was a study group under him. It was then decided that there should be a central force to guard the borders. L.P. Singh was then the Home Secretary. J.N. Chaudhary was then the Chief of Army Staff. And Mr. Rustomji was then the IG of Madhya Pradesh. Now, the personal relations amongst all these people was pretty good because LP Singh and J.N. Chaudhary had a good working relationship. And J.N. Chaudhary, General Chaudhary, and Rustomji had worked as colleagues during the Operation Polo of Hyderabad, together in Operation Polo. So he was very comfortable with Rustomji. Now, in the month of April, these skirmishes had taken place. Immediately thereafter, General Kumaramangalam submitted his report. And on 17th of May, Prime Minister Shastri called a meeting of the Home Ministers and IGPs of all the states and gave the proposition that let's have a central border force. In an interesting irony, the one person who opposed this was Mr. Rustomji, because he'd been instructed by his chief minister, D.P. Mishra, that you must not support the creation of a central force. Now, there are two reasons for this. One was that Madhya Pradesh was not a border state. But more importantly, the then Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, D.P. Mishra, was not very comfortable with the premiership of Lal Bahadur Shastri. And he was not very keen that the center should have more powers. Be that as it may, Shastri was able to, the great conciliator that he was, he took the mic, gave a pep talk to everyone and said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there were many ladies, but he said, gentlemen, let's set up the Central Border Force. And that's how the BSF was created. Rustomji was made the first Director General of the BSF. In fact, Rustomji was the first Director General, was the first IPS officer who became IP officer, who became a Director General with stars and stripes equivalent to that of a Lieutenant General. Within the army, there was a big question and a big debate on whether the border guarding force should be with the army, should it be under the Ministry of Defense, or should it be under the Ministry of Home Affairs? In the Pakistan, the Sindh Rangers had then morphed into the West Pakistan Rangers, and that was under the Defense Ministry and the operational control of the army. But in India, the decision was taken that the BSF would normally be under the MHA, but would come under the operational command of the army during times of war. So this is how Rustomji became the first DG of this force. But the force was actually created on 1st December 1965 by bringing in the armed police battalions from the border states, which included Punjab Police, Rajasthan Police, Jammu and Kashmir Police, and in Bengal, the Bengal Police and the Assam Police. So this is how the first few battalions, 60,000 people, joined the first set, which became the BSF. Then the emergency commissioned officers joined the ranks of the BSF. And of course, BSF has been expanding since then. BSF has been a great force. BSF will continue to be a great force. And we wish all the members of this force the very best on their raising day. Their motto is duty unto death. And they have done themselves and the nation proud. 3 cheers to the Border Security Force. Jai Hind.